it ends up sounding like, hey, do you want to get 10x growth with our sales AI? Do you want a meeting? And it's so happy and sunny. And you have to flip that. People are risk averse and loss averse. And there's two parts of the brain, the
Yeah.
old brain and the new cortex. When you interrupt a stranger on the phone, they're like, stranger, saber-tooth tiger, and they get
Yeah.
scared, and you got to
Yeah.
calm them down. And you have to first establish trust, like
Yeah.
walking up on a horse. When I look at the majority of the ways people open a cold call, they're all the same. Did I catch you at a bad time? Can I
Yeah.
get 30 seconds of your
Yeah.
time? And people are like, they work, but that's what's known. So I've written a new way of opening phone calls in 2030, 2040, 2050, where GPT and LLMs can basically just pick the contacts and do the writing and set up a sequence. Well, what's the role of the human? But the human is still a supercomputer that can be creative, can create solutions, and can strategize and empathize and probe. This was a crazy effort, these two books. Took me 300 hours to write.
Hey, welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. I'm your host, Serbai, and if you are new to the channel, this is a place where you can learn from top producing salespeople. What is it like working in tech sales? How do you break in? What do companies look for? And how to succeed as a SDR, all for free. Today, I'm chatting with the outbound sales legend, Justin Michael. And I purposely use the term legend because I know sales reps and sales leaders who've seen an immediate uplift in positive response rates after implementing his JAM framework, which it stands for Justin Michael Method. People are reporting they only after 3 or 4 coaching sessions with Justin, their sales teams are generating 10 times pipeline value and crush sales quota 200, even 300%. No wonder why Justin is considered a number one sales coach and his client acquisition methodology widely recognized as one of the most impactful in history. So hi, Justin. Thanks for being with us today. I hope I did not miss anything from my intro part about you. You are a legend and it's not easy to make it short.
You're too kind, and I hope I can live up to such an auspicious introduction. But yes, I'm really glad to be here and to share with your audience.
Thanks so much. So let's start by asking you, Justin, what is so special in your outbound methodology that drives 10 times pipeline value and income within weeks?
Yeah, so I think we definitely overestimate what we can do in a month or a quarter, but underestimate what we can do in 6 months or a couple years. Um, I have seen people generate really strong results with this because I have studied what other people are using. I had a chance to be in a startup where we sent 5 million emails, and I was able to run tons of A/B tests and use scientific method and use AI and look at that. But this was happening in 2017, 2018. So it was like 8 years ago. And I feel like I was able to get ahead of the market with that with scalable A/B testing. I also took a lot of those tests and compared them to Jeremy Donovan, who was at SalesLoft at the time,
Yeah.
testing it on 6 million emails. And personally, I just turned 44, but I have 20 years of experience on the phone and I still call to this day. So what makes the method unique is one, it's visual based, not text based. So I send Venn diagrams, I send things you'd see product marketing, because visuals process 60,000 times faster in the brain. The other big thing is it's mobile responsive. So it's really short, right? If you make a message under 50 words, it converts 60% higher. And then a lot of it is reverse psychology and doing counterintuitive things, which are obviously pattern interrupts. Now, I've started to call that heuristics. It's a big word. It means shortcuts. And my father was a linguistics PhD. And so I look at business communication in a really radical way. So when I look at the majority of the ways people open a cold call, they're all the same. Did I catch you at a bad time? Can I get
Yeah.
30 seconds of your
Yeah.
time? You don't
Those
know
are
me.
classics.
These are all the classics, right? And people are like, they work, but that's what's known. So I've written a new way of opening phone calls. And then I've written a new way of doing email sequences and writing emails. But what I work with people to do is have a philosophy or have a formula or a framework of how they look at the various methods of outbound. And then if 999 people are going that way, you go this way. It's like a military flank. It's the signal and the noise. So
Yeah. I,
I could
I,
go on forever.
yeah, sure. I like this part about visual, and email is visual, and human mind just can read emails. We're gonna talk a lot about email outreach and why is again your approach so effective. I just want to comment, that your revolutionary approach has generated over $1 billion in pipeline value for more than 200 startups. You have actually advised, benefiting over 25,000 sales reps, with even 1,000 of them receiving personalized coaching from you. So I mean, this is just amazing, and I probably want to use this opportunity just to kind of mention. Actually, I have them right next to me. You recently released Sales Power books. It's a 2-book series, Justin Michael Method 1 and 2, and both ranking #1 in sales and marketing at Amazon, right? So I'm just kind of want to share it with you. I keep it next to me like as a Bible, like for last couple of months at least. And I remember, saying like, you don't really have to read like 50 books. You just have to read one good book 50 times. And I think I'm really going to read this one, maybe not 50 times, but like at least like 3 or 4 times, because this is how good it is. And you just bring a great value, and I kind of wanted to share with you. So you said somewhere that even 10 years from now, your books will still be relevant. What makes you say that?
Yeah, so thank you. So I'm deeply honored. It's really an author's love language when someone takes the time to really read the books or read them again, because, I still have half a life to go, but it was time for me to just write down what I found the last 20 years. And I got to be involved in a special project to try to turn my brain while prospecting into artificial intelligence. And that was before ChatGPT was there to help us. So it was much harder and a heavier lift. When I write my books, I think about, I can't list too many vendors now because
Yeah,
the vendors will be gone.
yeah,
I think about where will we be in 2030, 2040, 2050 in an environment where GPT and LLMs can basically just pick the contacts and do the writing and set up a sequence. Well, what's the role of the human? But the human is still a supercomputer that can be creative and can create solutions and can strategize and empathize and probe. And it's almost like business art in a sense. So I challenged myself. So this was a crazy effort. These 2 books took me 300 hours to write over about 6 months. I put 2,000 people in the docs, all reading it. I took a ton of advice.
yeah,
I had hundreds of coaching sessions, and every time someone asked a question like, "How do you get past the gatekeeper? How do you handle this exact objection?" I would put in the book, put in the book.
yeah,
And so there's examples of almost anything you think of. If you get it on Kindle and you just do a Command F, you
yeah,
can find an answer. You could even turn this book into a GPT.
yeah.
However, I believe that the human being is always the operating system above any other tech stack. And our unique ability to relate to other human beings is probably not going to go away till the year 2055. So that's why I think it'll stay relevant.
Wow, wow, that's so amazing. And I just feel the same, that at the end of the day, humans will win. And I like that you pretty much finish every section of your book with ChatGPT suggestions, like how to craft the prompt, right? So as to get the best conversions, best results. And I kind of find this end of each section very useful. And I was kind of playing just to see if your methods are working. And I was getting like extremely good results. So good job on that. So let me try to dive a little bit deeper into outbound, and we mentioned earlier like that email is visual, and like human mind can't read emails. You use neuroscience to flip it, to show them how they can lose, somehow to scare them off, flip from gain to pain. Usually we kind of try to emphasize the positive sides of using our solutions. And somehow you have this approach, you kind of say, we should flip it and say, what's going to pain be like, if they miss
Yeah.
out our solutions. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah. So the only reason anyone would buy anything is the four demand types. And I ran into these with both Mike Bosworth and Steve Richards. I love to give credit. I'm constantly crediting other authors
Yes.
in the book, but make money, save money, reduce risk, satisfy regulation. Everyone's in the make money, little save money in the pandemic, right? In the recession. But the truth is, the tone or tenor of what emails sound like, we're very optimistic as salespeople. We're trying to put our best foot forward. It ends up sounding like, hey, do you want to get 10x growth with our sales AI? Do you want a meeting? And it's so happy and sunny. And you have to flip that and say, do you realize that your site could be insecure and you could be, missing 97% of the traffic and you could be losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because you don't have this critical technology? Should we talk? So, like, it's about taking an email and having pain and fear as emotional resonance. And Tony Robbins talks about this.
Yeah.
People are risk averse and loss averse. And there's two parts of the brain, right? The
Yeah.
old brain, like the
Yeah.
amygdala, and then like the front brain, the neo new cortex. And so when you interrupt a stranger on the phone, you trigger the old brain. They're like, stranger, saber-tooth tiger, and they get
Yeah.
scared, and you got to
Yeah.
calm them down, even if they
Yeah.
seem calm. So you can't just buffet people with logic and just talk over them when you call them on the phone. You have to first establish trust.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
walking up on a horse, it'll kick you.
Yeah.
In email, you need to trigger a deeper sense of emotion, even in emotions in different parts of the brain. Like
Yeah.
this is armchair neuroscience, but the point is like an email that's like, hey, do you want this really cool widget that makes you 200% more money with AI? It's kind of like vague. It's a nice to have. You don't really need it. Like, what terrible, no good thing does it stop? How does it trigger a worry or fear or
Yeah.
something that's urgent for you? So you really gotta be thinking about how the brain processes
Yeah.
communication. And if you nail the words, you'll get the right images and you'll trigger a visceral response.
I hope you don't mind asking you, since you use neuroscience in such an effective and theoretical way, obviously, is it ethical when we flip, from gain to pain and somehow play with emotions of our prospect? Is that are we being ethical salespeople?
I've heard that question before. I think if you think of a method for enterprise sales like Sandler, there is a real perspective of reverse psychology and doing things that are opposite of what's expected.
Yeah.
If what you sell has an ROI, a return on the investment, and it's a quality product or service, that whatever they spend comes not only 100% back, but probably three times more between 6 and 18 months,
Yeah.
you can feel good about interrupting them.
Yeah.
Because if you make them feel a little emotion or you make them help understand their pain, like, and then they buy it and they install it and their life gets dramatically better, that's a good thing. So that's why I press harder than most people. That's the honey badger in me, because I don't mind getting in front of you, almost coaching you, getting you into this product
Yeah.
because I believe I'm transferring my belief. Go ahead.
Win-win situation also a prospect win 10 times more. Obviously everybody's happy, so I also don't see some ethical issues there, but you know I just kind of wanted to ask this. Cold calling, obviously a huge topic. It's very powerful. I know you are a big fan of cold calling. You've been calling. You are, I should mention, ex Salesforce and LinkedIn guy, right? Been in sales for over 20 years, so you are well experienced. And when we talk about cold calling, I think that cold calling is not anymore tone and scripts, but it's more like you talk about a polarity shift. And we are all affected with these old school guys such as Jordan Belfort and our Wolf of Wall Street hero, right? But you talk about polarity shift, and it's not really anymore about tone and just having the scripts. Like, what is it about? How can you really be effective with cold calling?
Yeah, so we've all seen Boiler Room with Vin
Yeah,
Diesel, or we've
yeah,
seen Wolf of Wall Street, and
yeah,
you see Cardone and Belfort. It's a lot about the tonality, and everyone's convinced that if you just nail the tone, you'll get meetings. Well, if 11 million technology
yeah,
salespeople are using the same scripts and the same
yeah,
tone techniques,
yeah,
they all sound the same. So it's not about tone and it's not about your script. Then what is it? It's about curiosity and active listening, getting them to
yeah,
talk. So there's a difference. If you want to open a cold call and have it feel like kung fu and fast hands, and have it really stressful, use the old ways. My way of simulating this is like Aikido or jujitsu. I'm letting them talk themselves into it. I'm letting them talk. The person speaking on a call. So you think in 100 years, the way we open a cold call is the seller talks. My opener is the
Yeah.
prospect talks.
Yeah.
When the prospect is talking, I'm controlling the meeting.
Yeah.
So why in the first 10 seconds would the why would I be talking? It's a weaker frame. So yeah, I mean, cold calling to be disruptive also takes a neutral tone because enthusiastic tones or shifting tones, all these tones, it just people feel like they're on a car lot, it's
Yeah.
like it's too much. So I'm just really calm.
Yeah,
Air
you
traffic
you
control.
are definitely calm and you have this neutral tone. You tend somehow to slow down. And most reps sound like too pushy, with their voice and tonality, with a clear sense of what I guess I could call commission breed. Somehow you could feel, they are going after the bonus part, rather than really listening and trying to help, prospects. So this is interesting, how this polarity shifts. If you kind of just try maybe use a little bit of humor. I think Justin, I listen some of your call calling from time to time. You would use also humor, obviously very active listening, and somehow you remove what you call commission breed, right? And it seems to be working well. But let me not forget ask you about the permission-based opener. Did I catch you at a bad time, right? That's pretty much we
Yeah.
always use, and we try to be polite. But then I've listened on several, events, and even in your book, you discuss about this. I know you are against permission-based opener. Is what you are claiming. You said that it lowers your status. So I would like you maybe to elaborate a little bit on this as well.
Yeah. So my first rule of everything is if you set a meeting, you were right. So
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
doing a technique on the phone and it feels good and you like it and you're setting
Yeah.
meetings, that's fine. There's always a traditional way to do it. However, traditional methods will perform on average because that same CMO or CEO or decision maker or CEO of the problem is getting another, 20 calls that day or 100 calls, depending on how, if it's an enterprise, they might be getting massive amounts of robocalls and everyone's using the same openers. So permission based is like, I just met a person that I want to do a transaction with at 6 or 7 figures or a large agreement. And I immediately go, did I catch you at a bad time? And that sets a tone of I'm soliciting, I'm selling you, I'm beneath you, I'm just a seller. If I said, you don't know me, then I'm highlighting that I'm soliciting you. If I say, could I get 30 seconds of your time? I'm highlighting that I'm not that valuable because my product's a 30-second product.
Yeah.
How are you going to do a
Yeah.
$100,000 deal in 30 seconds? So like every one of these approaches, I just call
Yeah.
PBO, I call it
Yeah.
permission
Yeah.
based
Yeah. Yes.
because you're somehow lowering yourself. Like you have a right to take more than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You have a right to charge 100,000.
Yeah.
You have a right to their time if you have the value. So I don't use that. I communicate as a trusted advisor, like a C-level. I just say, you know, um, Serba Markovic, yes. Hey, Serba, Justin Michael from Acme Corp. Just curious, who's in charge of your marketing automation? That's it.
Yeah.
They say, I am. Oh, great. What do you use? We use Marketo. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How do you like
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Pause. And then I just get them opening up and talking about their tech stack. A lot of you sell tech out there. If you sell tech and they have 91 solutions or 24
Yeah.
solutions, and I've configured this for services and I've configured it for rip out, and so many people take a religious position about
Yeah.
permission based and they love it. But again, if you use permission based, the big red flag is, did I catch you at a bad time? Get them to say no. And then you say the reason for my call. So everyone is
Yeah.
taught this method, why you, why now, and it comes
Yeah.
from Basho and Barrows. It is
Yeah.
effective, but I use that later. I don't give
Yeah.
any reasons because to me, that's a pitch. Remember, we've interrupted the human. They're scared, fight or flight. Now we say the reason. And so for years, people were like, what's the best opener for the call? What's the value prop? What's the pitch? How do I get it right? And like, don't do it at all. Pitch later. Let's hear
Absolutely.
them out.
Yeah.
And then people ask about research. What's the pre-call research? I don't need pre-call research because you're telling me the problems. And the best part is it says all this beautiful stuff on LinkedIn, but the insider baseball is like, if you're about to get replaced, there's
Yeah.
infighting, you just fired some reps, there's a new tech stack. What they're not going to put
Yeah.
it on their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
nowhere you can
Yeah.
research what's really
Yeah.
going on. Only
Yeah.
trust. and lowering friction can get them to open up. And then you have ammo to tailor and customize the pitch later.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I try to use this with my SDR team. Obviously, we are trying to improve with cold calling, and I just think this permission-based opener is definitely lowers your status. And we've been seeing way, let's say, more positive replies since we kind of try to align with your methodology. Justin, people often ask you, and everybody, they ask different leaders, how do you sell more? And this is like this $1 million question. I think it's either from your book. I heard you somewhere saying that you need, first of all, to sell without selling, really. So you have to stop selling in order to sell more. You were discussing that you really need to kill a profit motive, like decide that you really want to solve prospect problem, and really forget about quota, stand behind the solution you believe that creates value, as you mentioned, for your prospect. Is that how you can really sell more?
It is sell without selling. Every sale happens within a conversation. Got that from Litvin and Chandler, these authors I like. Here's the thing. Um, when you're trying to get a lot of meetings and get opportunities, that's not the purpose of business. Eventually you will be an AE. It's to create a customer who uses the product and gets value. And that's the purpose of your startup. So you have to have that mission. If you can move from sales and transacting to service
Yeah.
and helping, it's an intent. It's from your being, and they feel that shift. And for someone like me with no
Yeah.
college degree that got all the way up to Salesforce and LinkedIn after being rejected hundreds of times, and then built a consultancy now and a best-selling
Yeah.
author, and ending up, getting to the seven-figure level, I'm old. If you don't want to wait until your 40s, do this sooner. Serving, caring, being curious, taking all the focus off who
Yeah.
you are and putting
Yeah.
all the focus on them,
Yeah.
other orientation. Now, what do you say on the phones? What's the script? What's the thing? You're still thinking about yourself.
I
If you put
still.
all your focus on that person, you'll know what to say.
Yeah.
What about your brother or your cousin or your uncle? And you're sitting at the table at the holidays and they have a problem and you give advice
Yeah.
and you go, oh, and you care. We're taught the challenger sale. We're taught Wolf of Wall Street to be so military and hardcore, but like
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, you mentioned several times curiosity, and I think it was you saying that people hate to be sold, but they like to buy. And when I think of this, is so true, and this comes down to curiosity. And probably curiosity is the most important trait of one, let's say, sales rep, right? Because
It
really,
is.
people don't like, they hate really to be sold, but yes, people like to buy. So
That
you
is
have,
the polarity shift. And I've
yeah,
been talking about this
going,
for 4 years. If you let someone talk enough, they talk themselves into a moment where they become interested.
yeah,
So my phone technique is to allow the person to talk about, who's in charge of the thing. You could get referrals from the top script, but if they're opening up and talking to you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, eventually they say, wait, who are you? What do you do? And the moment in the call where they take interest in you is just like the moment where, sir, but like you're looking at your tennis shoe, your shoe, your running shoe, you're like, "It's scuffed. I'm gonna get a new one." You go to Amazon, you hit click, you buy a new shoe, get your Adidas. So
yeah,
like most people call someone and the entire call, that prospect is disinterested. Do you want to become the most interesting person in the world? Be the most interested.
yeah.
Be the most curious. Now, the archetypes are doctor, detective, or therapist. How do these people act? How do they sound? Right. So
Awesome.
the first quote comes from Jay Abraham, and the second quote comes from Jeff Toll. I always attribute my references. A lot of people don't. That's fine. Even if you feel like, hey, I'm junior, I don't know enough, I'm just starting, don't be down on yourself. Like a curious person just starting out will crush the know-it-all.
Yeah, yeah.
They want to hear themselves talk. They don't want to hear you talk.
And it has to do with the polarity shift that we've been talking from the first moment. And your second book, Justin Michael Method 2, talks a lot about AI. And I have one question from our SDR hire community saying that like most emailing tools have personalized first liners, and they are calling AI tools that are pretty good actually. So how far are we from AI being 100 times more effective at client acquisition while being 100%, 100 times cheaper than humans? Are we far away from really getting this scenario?
I mean, I think that if you spend enough time in clay.com and you spend enough time in things like Reggie and personalization engines and you fine tune enough and you get good enough at prompting ChatGPT, it can get you probably 80% there, even 90%. However, there's a homogeneous element to the GPT that's like milk when it all's the same, like something that's vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
It just, all these GPT emails start to sound the same and all the templates look the same and all the phone numbers. And then they even have robots now doing the calls, but I listen to them like that. Just sounds so generic. It sounds like all the other calls. Remember, the best thing you can do as an SDR right now is go read this book called The Purple Cow by
Purple.
Seth Godin.
Right.
Just it's like it seems you're driving through the countryside and there's a purple cow. So it's like it's that's why I love Dale Dupree and Stu Heineck and sending cartoons and doing GIFs and anything visual in the email. Like I send George Clooney as a bump. I just do
Yeah.
like a George Clooney bump. You got to stand out. And I don't think artificial intelligence is variegated enough. It's too similar at the
Yeah.
moment.
Justin, before we wrap up, I believe we have a few more minutes. Just want to ask you, like commissions, obviously, they go up and down, right? So we somehow all need side hustles. And I know you are a big supporter of having a high hustle, even 6, 7 figure. How can we make side hustle work well for us? How can you help actually sales reps go into right directions with the side hustles?
Yeah, so it's something like 40% of sales reps do a side hustle. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go all in for a company if you have equity or, shares and you believe in it, do 2 to 4 years, like the Reid Hoffman tour of duty. But um, I work with people to really understand their unique genius. A lot of people are great with content, YouTube, copywriting, SEO. They're doing coaching on the side. So I would actually just promote. I have a co-founder in this company she invented called Hard Skill Exchange. It's a coaching marketplace, hardskill.exchange. And it's a place where you could put up a coaching profile or get coached, but I think it's important to think of yourself as a razor with many different blades. And don't think that you have to be like 35 or 40 or have 10 or 20 years experience before you do a side hustle. There's so many ways that as long as you're keeping your current role whole and doing your all for the business you're in your spare time, it's your prerogative to kick off another 5 to 20K a month.
Those are awesome tips, and I hope you're gonna inspire more people to start side hustles. And who can benefit the most from your coaching?
I would say that it's anyone who is really hunting. I mean, I've honed it down to 400 million small businesses, but really 11 million technology center sellers, which is really the engine of the economy. If you have difficulties with the pipeline, if you're challenged with getting new business, if you're just not getting through the door, not getting meetings, then the Justin Michael method's for you. My books are like $6, maybe
Yeah,
more if, depending on the country, but I have a free guides too. So hit me up if you'd like the free guides. And it's been a real pleasure being on
nice.
here.
Thanks, Justin, for sharing your enormous knowledge and experience with the audience. Guys, make sure you follow Justin on LinkedIn and reach him out for consulting services. The guy is awesome. He's really a genius, and you'll learn everything you need in a couple of weeks. And, get his books today and start making 10 times more revenue, man. These are the books, order them now. They are #1 on Amazon. And, this is probably the best investment I made in probably last 10 years. Thank you, Justin,
I'm
so
honored.
much for being with me. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Enjoy.